Hi BookTube, I'm here with my second video for Comic Week, and this is actually going to be a review of an app. And it's actually the app that I use to read e-comics on my tablet. That app is called ComicRack. So what is ComicRack? Simply put, it's the app I use to read e-comics, as I've already said. There is a free version supported with ads, and a paid version, which is $7.98. I prefer to read e-comics because for me they're easier to keep track of. You can zoom in on the art and words to see them clearer, whereas you can't do that with a physical version, right? They also take up less physical space. I mean, I have almost a whole bookshelf dedicated to comics, and it takes up a lot of room. And you don't have to worry about damaging them while storing them as well. So I heard about ComicRack actually through Reddit, and initially I thought it was a place where you go to acquire e-comics, but that's not the case, so let's clarify that right off. You don't use ComicRack to acquire comics, you acquire them from websites. It's just the app that you use to read them on your tablet, on your phone, or on your computer. They support iOS, so you can use it on Apple product, as well as Android and Windows, so you can use it on your PC or your Android phone. I've seen it described as kind of like an iTunes for comics, although I can't comment on that personally because I never really used iTunes, and the one time I did, I just got really frustrated with it. It's sort of like it collects all your comics together and kind of organizes them for you, so it's easy to find comics and use them. I personally use it on my tablet here. It's closest in size to an actual comic. It's just a bit smaller than, as you can see, this issue here of Captain Canuck. I also have the app on my laptop, but I don't actually use that as often. I use the ad-supported version because the only ads I've actually ever seen pop up are ads for the actual app itself. So there's no like videos playing in the middle of reading a comic. There's a little pop-up at the bottom that says please consider buying ComicRack, and you just gotta close it and continue reading. I don't find it really disrupts my reading that way. And I also can't really justify spending $8 on an app, although I am tempted to do so to support the creators because I've been using this app for so long that I think it might be a nice thing to do. So what are the features of ComicRack that I like? The best feature by far is the ability to zoom in and out easily. It allows you to get a closer look at the art and also to make some of the tiny print actually readable. And the tapping at the bottom corner will just take you to the next panel with the same zoom level as well. And you can also zoom in and out quite easily with the pinching and the sliding motions. And I also find that I don't always have to zoom in and read the text or to see the pictures clearly, yet it comes up just fine. I like the tapping feature, I call it. I don't know what it's actually called, but you can just tap the bottom right to go to the next panel or the next page, which is very easy and simple to use, so it's user-friendly. I actually prefer that to turning the pages, like the swiping. I just prefer the tapping. But you can do the swiping as well. You can also read multiple comics at a time. I have a few larger comics on the go that I'm taking my time reading, and ComicRack keeps track of my progress there in each book. It also tells you like the page number and what percentage of the book you've read. So you could be 30% through one book. Close the app completely, turn off your device, return to it months later, and it will keep that place for you. You can be reading that comic, exit out of that comic, read another comic, finish that comic, finish 3-4 other comics, and then go back to that comic that you're in the middle of, and it will take you back to the place where you left off. There's also the single tap in the middle of the page, which brings up an overlay menu on the page you're reading. This allows you to adjust brightness, screen orientation, page zoom, and access different settings. The single tap also brings up the info button, which is my favorite thing, which provides information that you normally have to like flip around in the comic to find. So for example, in this comic, to find publication info, I'd have to flip to the front page along the bottom here to find out how many pages there are. Well, there's no page numbers in this, and there generally aren't. That's something that the ComicRack app does. It will tell you, that info button will tell you page count, author, publisher, and some other information you can see here. The same tapping in the middle of the page will bring up the pages at the bottom in another overlay menu. And this shows you a small image of the page so you can easily scan through those to find a specific scene or to skip back to a specific page. Another good feature that I like is drag and drop. So I plug it into my computer with a USB cord, I just drag and drop the comics into a file, and they're there on my app. So I prefer to download the comics on my laptop and then transfer them to my tablet, and I do this because e-comics can be rather large files. So I don't have to store them all on my tablet. I can store some on my computer as well and change them out when I'm done reading them or need to load new comics. So what I do is I just have a file folder on my computer labeled comics, and I drag and drop the files from my computer onto a folder on my tablet that's called comics as well, because why not? And I go to the app and set the library to open files from that specific comic. It's very easy to do when you go into settings, and then once you do that you can add comics whenever you want, and it will automatically update the library when you open the app again. You can also adjust things such as the page layout. The default is one page is on screen at a time, but you can adjust it so that you can read in landscape and read it in a more traditional manner where you have 2 pages in front of you at a time. You're also able to adjust the layout so it's easier to read manga if you're going to read e-comics, if you're going to read electronic versions of manga, which reads right to left as opposed to left to right. So what features of ComicRack do I not like? One little annoyance is that at times comics have a bunch of additional content or ads at the back of the comic that I don't want to read. And they're usually like 4 or 5 pages. Sometimes they have a preview, so it's a bit longer. And I'll stop reading once I get to the ads. But the app then doesn't mark the comic as having been fully read if I don't go to the last page. That's just a slight issue, but still sometimes irritates me when I'm because you can organize it by read, reading, and unread comics. So when I go to look at what comics I have read, they're not all there. They're still under the reading tab. The ad that does come up, which I spoke about before, is just an ad for the app itself. And it can get a little bit annoying because trying to hit that X little button there, I sometimes end up tapping to the next screen instead of hitting that X. I don't know if that's because the X is so small or because my fingers are so chubby, but that's another issue I found. One of the biggest drawbacks, unfortunately, however, is that e-comics come in a variety of different formats. The most common are CBZ, followed by CBR, and occasionally you'll find PDF and EPUB comics as well. But these are not very common. So this app doesn't support CBR files, only CBZ files. So make sure the files that you do get are that CBZ format. And I haven't really had an issue in getting the comics that I want in CBZ as opposed to CBR. So ultimately, would I recommend ComicRack to read e-comics? I would definitely recommend this app. I've been using it for 2 years now. And I've been using it on my computer for even longer, for about 3 or 4 years. And I think the lack of obtrusive ads combined with the ease of use actually make this a really functional app for reading e-comics. So let me know if you've tried e-comics, and if you have, how do you go about reading them on your computer, tablet, phone, and after my recommendation, would you consider downloading ComicRack? Just to let you know, this is not an ad. I'm not sponsored. I was not asked to review this product. I just thought I'd come on here and share this product that I do like and wanted to share with you. So thank you for watching.